So the second category of templates would be the rescue or save templates. So the first template within the rescue category would be institutional renovation. An imagery that might come to mind is somebody restoring a car or restoring a house, maybe restoring a garden that's been overtaken by weeds. The template of institutional renovation is when a church focuses on rescuing, renewing, revitalizing a historical institution that is important to God. And in order for this model to work, a church has to have a very positive understanding of institutions and not think of them as simply outdated and so forth. So a church might focus on renewing a denomination, a church, a family, institution such as marriage, or maybe picking a group that is not doing well in their community, such as young people or young men. The biblical imagery of this is Nehemiah, who is sent back to Jerusalem to help rebuild a city that has fallen on very, very hard times, right? It's been razed to the ground. There are people back there trying to rebuild, but they're not having a very successful time at it. Nehemiah goes back to literally rebuild the walls of a crumbling city. Two examples of this would be there's a church planting network that is planting churches in every YMCA across the United States. A lot of people forgot that the YMCA is actually a Christian organization, and it was founded to specifically bring young men to Christ, but of course that's a broader picture now, men and women. But the YMCA had lost touch with its own original mission. And so there is actually a partnership now between a church planting network and the YMCA to use YMCAs to plant churches all over the United States. So this idea is about revitalizing the YMCA by reconnecting it to its original vision. Another example of this is Life Church. Life Church wanted to make Bible reading easy, relevant, exciting, and accessible to millions of people. And so they invested millions of dollars into an app called YouVersion, which makes Bible reading and Bible listening very accessible through smartphones everywhere. So part of their vision was to revitalize the tradition of Bible reading and Bible devotion on a regular basis. The second template within the rescue or save category is need adoption. Need adoption is when a church looks around at its own community, the region, or even the world and picks a need that they can address. So, for instance, I've known a number of churches that have dedicated themselves to eradicating hunger in their area or even around the world. I've known churches that have dedicated themselves to responding to natural disasters, either here or even abroad. The biblical image of this is Matthew 25, when Jesus tells us that when we've done it to the least of these, when we've taken care of people in most need, we have cared for him. And when we've neglected to do that, we've neglected to care for God. So let me give you an example of a church that is doing this quite well. First United Methodist Church in Jackson, Tennessee is the church I served at prior to coming to Collierville. What made First United Methodist Church of Jackson an interesting and unique church is it was one of the last churches to stay downtown. Like a lot of other cities, Jackson's downtown area has become problematic, right? It has homelessness, it has a lot of crime, it has a lot of gang violence and drugs, and a lot of the churches moved out to the suburbs. But Jackson First United Methodist Church made a conscious decision to stay downtown. And they have chosen as their motto, downtown for good, meaning they're not going anywhere. They're going to stay there, and they're going to stay there in order to do good for that community. When I got to Jackson First, they had 44 mission partners, which was way, way too much. And some of these mission partners got very, very little support because the church was spread so thin. Over time, and under the leadership of Sky McCracken, Jackson First United Methodist Church decided to laser focus on what they were there for. And so they narrowed their mission partners from 44 down to about 3. And those 3 were right in the center of their vision and purpose for existing as a church. The first one was RIFA, which was the food distribution ministry of Jackson that addressed the chronic problem of food insecurity for the working poor. The second mission partner was ARM and Room at the Inn, and our church was the central location for most of what happened through ARM. We hosted Room at the Inn most of the time, and that was the ministry for homeless men. And then the final thing that we focused on is we adopted an elementary school in one of the most economically deprived elementary schools in our community, and we made them our mission partner. We supported their teachers, their students. We were the backbone of the reading program for that school, and so everything that we did was focused on the community we were in and the purpose for which we believed our church existed. The final category, or the final template within the rescue or save category is crisis mobilization. Crisis mobilization is when a church decides that they are going to prepare themselves to be ready when a crisis happens. And I can think of a number of churches. So I was a part of a church that was very good at responding to natural disasters when they would large natural disasters that would happen in our country or around the world. And we would partner with UMCOR, the United Methodist Committee on Relief, and we would mobilize to pack flood buckets and cleanup kits and other supplies that would be needed to aid the recovery process in places where earthquakes or disasters of other kinds had happened. Another one, a very specific one that my grandfather participated in, was Reedland United Methodist Church, who decided that what they were good at was building wheelchair ramps for those who had become physically unable to easily get in and out of their home. They had about 40 to 60 men who were carpenters and handymen of other sorts, and anytime a family in our area found themselves in a crisis because of a car accident, a surgery, or so forth, and did not have the means to put a wheelchair ramp in their home, they would go and build it. And my grandfather personally participated in building at least 60 of these over the course of about 25 years. Another crisis ministry is Life Choices. And so there are a number of churches that partner with Life Choices to help women who find themselves with unwanted or unexpected pregnancies. And they help these women by supporting them so that they have enough economic and emotional support to welcome their child and to bring that child into the world. And of course, there's other churches that partner with Calvary Mission, which is a homeless shelter in Memphis, and this ministry is able to respond to men in crisis who become homeless because of the work of many churches, many organizations that help them. So the biblical image for this would be from the book of Acts. Antioch, which becomes one of the hubs of Christianity very early on, goes through a severe famine. And the churches from the surrounding areas take up a collection to provide food for their brothers and sisters in the faith.